Sup, guys, and welcome back to Doctor Who Discussions. My name is Charlie,
And my name is Russell.
and we were not expecting to have so long a hiatus.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I got stuck in the sodding time vortex again.
Life got busy, then
My holiday was good. That holiday I mentioned in Knock Knock. It's been so long I can't even remember what episode we did last.
yeah, life got busy, and then Doctor Who went off the iPlayer, so we had to wait for the DVD, and then my equipment stopped working, and I had to get more.
And then Christmas.
We're good now, and we even should have better quality sound, and we're actually in the same room for once.
Hooray! So no more dodgy Skype connections or audio problems with Discord.
And hopefully not quite as much talking over each other. So, today we are talking about Oxygen.
By Jamie Matheson, who I am glad is back again.
Oh yeah,
Because he was the best part of Series A. I'm gonna blame Girl Who Died on Moffat.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't awful, but it felt very much like a step backwards.
It wasn't great.
But Matheson, he's always good fun, and he's got some decent sci-fi ideas behind him.
I am going to say though, people have criticised RTD for using capitalist villains too often, but in this one, the villain is literally the concept of capitalism itself.
Yeah, and I think it's good that the show is starting to move back into the sort of social commentary. Like I know, like because Doctor Who hasn't done political commentary in such a long time. Like so, it's been doing a lot of the fairy tale stuff with Matt Smith and whatnot, and also because nowadays, whenever you express any sort of political opinion, it just turns into a screaming match. Thanks, Donald. But it's good that we're getting decent quality stories with decent morals behind them now.
And like, political ideas and social commentary have always been a backbone of science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, episode two of Doctor Who in 1960. Well, technically it's episode 5.
The second series.
The second story is the Daleks and they're a Nazi allegory. They've always been that.
And to anybody saying that Star Wars doesn't have any political ideas, the entire series is literally an allegory for the rise of Nazism.
I mean, more so the new trilogy, but yeah, the original as well.
More so the prequel trilogy, really.
Well, that too as well.
Anyway, off topic. We do that a lot.
So anyway, we're here to talk about The Last Jedi. Anyway, this was actually quite a creepy episode as well.
It was.
It felt very sort of alien, as in the Ridley Scott movie.
You could almost say it's got a zombie aspect to it, and I know zombies are massively overused nowadays, but this was creepy in that it is literally it's the suits wearing the bodies. It's less zombies and more Black Lanterns.
It did feel like a sort of pastiche of various bits and bobs. So, like you even open with a Star Trek line.
Yeah. Before they instantly turn it around because it's Doctor Who, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I do absolutely love like after the opening credits. When he's explaining, the physics of space, and afterwards, he's drawn this skull on the blackboard, and sort of did a dot to dot with the stars, and instantly somebody puts their hand up and says, "So, what's this got to do with crop rotation?"
Well, nothing, but space is great, isn't it?
Space is cool, right?
I mean, who doesn't love space?
Yeah,
space is great.
Space is so cool.
I love space.
Just ask Markiplier.
Okay.
Doesn't watch Markiplier.
No, I don't.
But also the pre-opening. Like I can't believe I just skipped past the opening as well because we were saying while watching the episode, it should feel manipulative here, but it feels with this woman who we never really see again until the end, and even then she's a corpse, sort of saying, "Oh, I want to have a baby with you," and the guy can't hear her. It should feel manipulative, but I think probably because of the atmosphere it works.
It works in the same way that the Alien Covenant works. I mean, I did like that film. I was one of the 30 people who did.
Yeah.
Partially because it was established that everybody on board the ship was, they were couples. And so you got the impression that these were people dying. These were people who were getting hurt. And it's the same concept here. These aren't just these aren't just organic components wearing suits. But the entire point of the episode is that the company in the suits think of them as just organic components, another thing that they can exploit. But the opening, from the very, very beginning, you are forced to confront the fact that these are people with lives, with loved ones, with families, and they are just being slaughtered off because it's cheap.
Yeah, and it does work. It does make sense.
It's a disturbing concept.
It's a very, as with most sci-fi, it's very absurdist. Like, it's taking everything to the nth degree, but it doesn't seem completely out of the realm of possibility. I mean, even recently, just look at EA. That's.
Of course, we had to go there.
Of course, we had to go there. We've been out of action for a while. We got to rant about something.
We've got to reference everything that's happened between our last review and this one. And
don't get me started on The Last Jedi. I'm kidding.
We have several months to catch up on.
It's EA is taking capitalism to the nth degree with the video game market, and people have been following suit. So it's starting to get to the point where people you buy something and then people keep charging you for extra stuff that should really just come with it. And now you're being charged for the very air you breathe in this story.
Not only are you being charged for the very air you breathe, the second that you are not profitable, human life is now considered so worthless that you're killed off, which is a very distressing concept. I mean, you do say it's an absurdist concept, and that is, but the best sci-fi is the one, it's a sci-fi where it does have social commentary, but it has social commentary that you can imagine it.
Yeah, you can
actually imagine it happening.
It's completely out there and absurd, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, you compared it to Alien earlier, which is it's really,
and it had a similar sort of subplot.
That had a similar subplot where the entire point of the mission was to try and get some of the crew impregnated by the xenomorphs so that they can get samples and study them back, where the people are considered completely expendable, and which will always be a distressing concept because these are human lives you're throwing away because
in the pursuit of money,
because they're cheaper than the very air we breathe.
And again, it sort of harkens back to in Thin Ice as well. They're grinding up children to turn into lizard poo, just for the sake of progress,
for the sake of profit.
They're doing it under the banner of quote unquote the greater good, but there's no good to be found here.
There's a similar plot in a Big Finish story, Live 34, which it's fantastic.
Easily recommended if you're looking to get into it.
Absolutely, very interesting. Very different style of it. It's told in the style of a news report.
It's basically Doctor Who taking a piss out of Fox News again,
but it's also really, really, really dark. But there's a similar plot in that with people and these lives being thrown away just for profit, which, as we keep saying, going on and on and on about, is absolutely a terrifying concept because not only is it is absurd, it's absurdist, but you can see today's society pushing towards that.
Yeah, especially
in countries that are not necessarily as developed as the ones we live in.
Well, even then, in countries like here, people will cut corners, with, I'm going to dip into big controversies here, with Grenfell Tower. There was a lot of controversy with that they sort of cut corners and people suffered for it.
Yeah.
All under the banner of we got to save a bit of cash. Sorry, I got a bit too real there.
It's the point where the financial bottom line becomes more important than the person.
And as the Doctor says, we're like everyone else. We're fighting a spreadsheet. We're fighting an algorithm. We're fighting the suits.
Yeah, which was a great line.
Yeah, I miss him.
It's full of.
Oh wait, we haven't gotten to the regeneration yet. I'm still uplifted.
It's full of great lines. This episode actually.
Yeah, Matheson's really got some really good dialogue in his episodes. And Nardole here, I think this is the point where Nardole turned around from being the goofy sidekick.
This is the point
where actually being an interesting character.
This is the point where we started being thankful that Nardole was around instead of just tolerating his presence. Presence, yeah. Lost the word.
Because when you first heard Nardole's coming back for series 10, after seeing him in Husbands of Riversong, where it was basically just Matt Lucas being there, not really doing much. It was another case of Moffat wasting comedy talent in his Christmas specials, like in Dr. Widow and the Wardrobe. But now he's sort of gone from being Matt Lucas to actually be to actually being a really interesting character. You know, the fact that he's sort of anchoring the Doctor down, but he's
Or at least
also
trying to.
he's trying to. I did love that exchange. Whereas like I thought I sent you to Birmingham to get me a packet of crisps.
I saw through your cunning ruse.
Yeah, he's got some really good lines. But I think what works about it is that they sort of made him a bit more. They sort of made him a bit more grumpy. They sort of turned him a little bit into the Doctor,
Which totally works. He still is sometimes goofy comic relief with his,
he dated an AI.
he dated an AI and his...
He used to be blue.
And he's scared, whimpering. But at the same time, he is an interesting and actually quite dynamic character.
And I said this while we were just rewatching it. When, Bill's freaking out and Nardol's trying to calm her down and tell her what's going to happen, I said it felt very much like a veteran Whovian versus a new Whovian.
Yeah.
Like, I think that works quite well now I think about it, because, the companions are supposed to be like the companion, the surrogate, the audience surrogate. Audience surrogate. Should have done more of those exercises.
I told you to do more vocal warm-ups.
More vocal warm-ups before we did this. Anyway, audience surrogate. Bill is very obviously meant to be like the new person watching, whereas Nardole feels very much like, people like us who have been watching the show for a while and we know how it works. And
Which does work. We know from both Husbands of River Song and the next episode that he has...
Return of Dr. Mysterio.
And Return of Dr. Mysterio and episodes after Oxygen, that he spent some time with River Song, and it's possible that he spent some time with the Doctor before this, and so we know he knows how it works. He knows what happens.
He was basically their dog. Now I think about it.
And also the fluid link.
The fluid link line. We're just gonna say, like, to avoid undercutting the whole drama in the Dalek, because basically if you don't know, like, the whole thing about the fluid link was in the first Dalek episode, the Doctor wanted to go explore this city on what turned out to be Skaro, and basically to convince his companions that they couldn't take off. He basically sabotaged the TARDIS by taking out the fluid link, which then got stolen by the Daleks, which meant we had another 3 episodes of them trying to get back into the city to steal it back. So, to make sure we're not wasting 7 episodes here, we're just going to say, the Doctor replaced it while Nardole wasn't looking.
Because we find excuses around plot holes because we're fans, apparently.
Yeah. And Peter was great as well.
Peter's always great. But
yeah. I think he really excels in Matheson's episodes. Like, I mean, I'm going to gush here. Like, up until Mummy on the Orient Express, I wasn't really feeling his Doctor very much. And I think that's because of the inconsistency in the writing. Like, sometimes he'll be a bit more like Matt Smith. Sometimes he won't have very good scripts in general. But when it came to Mummy, it felt like, yeah, this Doctor is now finally a character, and you get where he's coming from.
What I like mostly about his performance in this one is actually something that's surprisingly subtle, and you only really notice upon watching of the next episode, Extremis. But I'm gonna spoil it here. It's the fact that when, spoilers, he does go blind, he acts so helpless, constantly reaching around everywhere like he can't see. But then if you watch the next episode, when he's pretending not to be blind, and even at the end of this episode and in Extremis when he's pretending not to be blind, he's a lot more confident. He's a lot more...
He's very good at putting on a face.
He's very good at putting on a face, but also it implies that at this point, even though he told Nardole, I can fix it with the TARDIS, he knew full well that he wasn't going to be able to fix it, and so he intentionally acted up his helplessness here so that he could pass himself off as being able to see later. And it just goes to show, like, there's shades of Seven in there, how far ahead he plans and how well he can manipulate the people around him, partially for their own good and partially for his own ego.
And I do like how far 12 has come in this recent series, because time was he'd be very brutally honest about somebody. Oh, you're going to die. I'm not really going to do anything. But then it sort of happened in Mummy. Like, he saved Maisie for Clara just because Clara was upset. And here now it's sort of gotten to the point where he spends more time trying to cheer Bill up, even though the situation seems completely hopeless. Like, I'm blind, but I'm just going to keep making jokes to keep Bill happy, so she's not completely freaking out. Because Bill does freak out quite a bit.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, but she doesn't handle death quite as calmly as other companions. Like even in this, like she spends a good 5-10 minutes freaking out about the first guy in the suit, which I quite like because it doesn't make her just sort of like walk into the room and everything's gonna be sorted like with Clara.
Yeah, it's like in. I've been really listening to the Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller Adventures from Big Finish, and in one of them, The Skull of Sobek, Lucy says, "I hope I never get used to seeing dead bodies because the concept of being so disillusioned by this that she doesn't care anymore, it scares her." And Bill works on the same principle. She doesn't want to get used to seeing dead bodies because it's
The moment that becomes mundane, it sort of says something more about you.
it's a scary thing seeing somebody dead. Because this is somebody who, as we've made clear, as the episode makes clear, they had a life, they had a family, they had all sorts of things, and now they don't exist anymore. And as obvious as that may be, it's very easy to pass these people off as red shirts, as a lot of episodes do. And this episode works quite hard at making sure you don't do that, even though most of the characters don't have that much to them, and a couple of them are just mostly there to die.
Red shirts and blue heads.
The opening especially, this is why I really love the opening of this episode, because it does hammer home so quickly and so effectively that these are people, and it is a tragedy that they're dying, and it's not just, oh, well, they're dead, let's move on. It's, they died, this is horrible, we have to stop this from happening more.
And you even get a little bit of that, like you do sort of get reminded at the end that, you know, these were, you know, people that these guys knew. You know, you had the guy's wife handing, the guy's wife's body handing over her oxygen tank to her former husband, you know, and he's sort of, he's looking at her dead-eyed, and he's very visibly upset about it. I mean, he's glad to be alive, but he's very visibly upset that his wife had to die.
But again, it's, you know, and he sees his wife give him this oxygen that will keep him alive. But again, it's the disturbing aspect because it's not his wife. It's just a suit wearing her body. It doesn't even need to. And as we see, they're autonomous. It's just doing it because it would waste time to get rid of the body.
And the fact, you know, the fact that she had to die for such a, at the end of the day, a very pointless reason. You know,
it was cheaper to kill her.
It was all because somebody somewhere just decided it'd be cheaper just to kill this person. Don't care about their hopes and dreams. Never mind if she wants a baby. She can't even afford to mine some copper ore. And that's one of the things that's so scary about it. You know, not even the fact that, you know, it's basically a base under siege with zombies. It's scary that, you know, it basically comes down to somebody somewhere who you don't even know being a completely sociopathic and screwing everybody over.
But again, this is the future.
This is the present.
Well, yeah, but this story is set in the future. You see stuff like Star Trek, and it's like the future is fantastic. It's bright, it's beautiful. The human race is all working together to sort everything out and explore space. And then you get stuff like this, and it says even in the future, we're still letting people work themselves to death and even killing them if it's cheaper because profit is more important than human life. It's a very, very cynical way of seeing the future in the universe, but it does make for some very effective social commentary and some disturbing sci-fi.
It's cynical, but it's realistic. I know I said it's absurdist, but it's also, you know, there's a bit of truth in there.
But there's also hope. I mean, at the end, the Doctor, you know, saves them and stops them from dying, at which point they go back and he says, yeah, in 6 months they sort it all out. It is cynical and it is disturbing, but it's not grim about it. It's not mired in gloom.
At the end of the day, now that they've seen the problem, they know what to do. They know how to sort it. And
these people may have died, but
they didn't die in vain.
It ended up that their death solved so many problems, not in the way that made it turn out. That made it sound like I was on the side of the people who killed them. But like, their deaths inspired people to rise up. Like they said, it was a rebellion. Like, and you know, that about wraps it up for capitalism.
Yeah,
which, you know, is a hopeful concept.
I mean, it's a bit optimistic that they sort it out within 6 months, but good on them for doing so anyway.
Maybe in the future we've become more efficient. Hey, that was the entire point of the episode. In the future we've become so efficient.
But
Bill was great as well.
Oh, Bill's good. Yeah, Bill was good. How have we not talked about Bill yet?
Because there's so much else to talk about the episode. This was a really good episode.
Yeah, like I'm really glad they got Matheson back again because I'm kind of ashamed. I'm kind of annoyed because now Chibnall's getting a whole new writing stuff. We're denying Matheson another episode.
Matheson's really good, but Bill is great, and it's partially because this is the first time where, I mean, her life's been put in danger before, but this is the first time where it looks to her like she is definitely not going to make it out, and she panics, she loses it, she screams for her mother, and she can't handle that.
There are some real stakes in this episode, which is something that you and I have complained about for a long time. Like, there are no stakes in Doctor Who for the last few years. Even we were even talking about dying. Nobody dies anymore, but here we've got people with hopes and dreams dying, and at the end of the day, it's disturbing that the reason they had to die was for such a pointless reason. But now we've got Bill out in a third or fourth trip into the TARDIS, and she very almost dies, and even Nardole sort of calls the Doctor out on it later on.
Yeah, and even beyond that, like we said that there were no stakes for a long time because nothing bad ever happened to the main character in the Team Invincible. The Doctor goes blind in this one, and it sticks
for the next 2 episodes.
For the next couple of episodes, he doesn't. It's not just a quick, easy fix, even though he promises he does. This does have lasting consequences because, and this is something that ties back into Face of the Raven. A character does something that the Doctor would do just quickly to save somebody, and it ends up having dire consequences. Yeah. That one was a bad example because it didn't stick, but this one did stick, and
yes, it did. What are you talking about? That episode was the end of series 9, and nothing else happened ever again, and Clara was dead forever.
Of course. But in this one, it just goes to show, like,
just because the Doctor wins a lot doesn't mean he's perfect.
And let's be honest, if it was Ivan or Darlene or whoever else, or
Abby
or any of the other characters, the Doctor would still do it, wouldn't he? I
mean, he's still it's okay. It's harkening forward a bit, but it's very much like he says in the finale. What he does is just kind, even if it's not even if it doesn't work or if it's not fun for him. He's just doing it to help. And
it harkens back to what you said about how far the Doctor's come. Like in Under the Lake, he has those punch cards because he apparently doesn't care if people die. But at this point, he's sacrificing his own sight just to save somebody who he only met a few days ago.
Hell, he even says in this episode, you only know what was it? You only know the universe's true face when it's asking for your help. When it's asking for your help.
And you only show your true face by how you respond.
And that's the Doctor in a nutshell.
It's powerful.
I'm so glad they got 12 right this year.
Same.
Because, I mean, like, they were sort of meandering about with him in Series 8. They didn't quite know what to do with him. Series 9, they sort of gave him the midlife crisis dad look.
But this series was definitely the one where he absolutely came into his own.
And I'm glad they got it right before he left.
Yeah, he is quite similar to the first Doctor in that he does appear to be the grumpy old man hiding the excitable teenager, but he's not an exact copy. He's got more empathy.
I mean, I compare him to the sixth more than the first because while he does seem like this angry, unpleasant fellow, he's actually one of the most compassionate of all.
He cares so much.
He is very clear. Like, even if he doesn't get on with a companion all the time, he's still distraught when something happens to them. And he's not going to let. This is a direct quote from the Sixth Doctor. He's not going to let people die if there's a chance to save them, even if they are rather unpleasant.
And let's leave it at that.
We're trying to keep it PG. I'm trying not to dip into Malcolm Tucker.
Yeah, there's very little Malcolm Tucker in him anymore.
Yeah, which I am quite glad about because I think they were just trying to get the Malcolm Tucker hype in Series 8 a little bit.
Which, don't get me wrong, I do love the thick of it. But
I don't think the 10-year-olds watching the show will appreciate the reference.
I think they would. I don't think their parents would.
I mean, my parents probably would, but they probably wouldn't appreciate 10-year-old me appreciating it as well.
Would not be surprised. I think that pretty much wraps it up for this
Yeah.
episode, unless you've got something else to say.
No, I think we're pretty much good. Scary episode, really good political commentary.
Everyone's good, even Nardole. This is where he came into his own.
Yeah, and even though the next part, the three-parter in the series isn't the best part of it, the characters at least still, they still carry you through it.
And we can't really talk about the villain because the villain's literally capitalism itself, and we can't talk about that without getting into a long political discussion that I have neither the time nor the professional experience to talk about. And
we also don't have any alcohol around, so that would don't tell me that wouldn't help.
I mean, it would. You've seen me in alcohol. I will rant about my political view. To be fair, I do that sober.
Oddly enough, we rant more about Doctor Who when we're drunk than politics, which says more about us than anything else, really.
We just like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Can you blame us with episodes like this?
And see you again in another 6 months for Extremis.
Well, thankfully, we actually have the proper equipment now. We can't promise any kind of consistent schedule because we both have full-time jobs.
We promise that we'll get this series done before Jodie Whittaker leaves.
Let's do that. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Take care.